PeteTheCanuck. Canuck?
Canuck.
Pete is requesting support. Well, I'm here, Pete. If anyone else would like to submit their replay for evaluation, find me if you can. I'd love to help you out. So the way this series will work, besides you send replay, you get feedback. What I'm looking to do is find your weakest points and then try to give you a practical solution on how to change that and give you immediate results. We'll be skipping forward as needed through this replay. So, PeteTheCanuck, or Canuck the Luftwaffe, on Taranto coastline. I don't like this map. Calling down Faucher Pioneers on the northern fuel point. So you're going to be aggressive and try to deny fuel? Okay, nothing wrong with that approach. Kettenkrad with cables going to the plus 16 munitions. So by the time you get that upgrade, you'll then capture the point. It's a good order, and then I assume you're going to start daisy chaining the fuel capping. Just for the folk at home, that's to the plus 60 munitions, and then all this fuel on the side. And then from there on, you can change it. You can go down to the victory point. But getting the plus 5 points with the Kettenkrad is great, because you're turning a plus 5 point into a plus 8 point with those cables. So here I can see one thing. It's not a big thing. The sandbags could be placed more angled like this, because the engagements that you're likely to get, enemy infantry sections will move around this side and start shooting you in the back, so you don't benefit from the heavy cover. Or they'll go around this side and they get the light cover, and you don't end up with any cover. So you'd be better off just using the light cover around there than the sandbags. So it was very ambitious of you to try and put sandbags down here, and you could actually just power drop straight here at the start of the game, but these buildings here offer plenty of cover for you. You don't need the sandbags. When choosing a building, though, make sure you've got enough windows. So this one on the right is better. Kind of wondering where your enemy is, though, if it took them that long to get to the fuel point. I can only presume that they traveled through the middle. They did get the victory point, that much we know. So let's see how this first engagement is handled. Infantry sections swing to the left, and they take that light cover, negating the green cover that you've got. The response time, this is really the only fight that's going on. You could also use the tractor for cover. At a swift's notice, there's a mortar on the field. And a lot of units grouped up. I'm dreading what might happen, pleading for it not to happen. Although in open ground like this, it would have been fine, but you got in light cover. So all we need to do is scatter and advance. We're going to advance. We don't need to do the scatter part. Yeah, get them. Spill their tea. Blood. I mean blood. Now, rather than advancing directly, I think we could predict what would happen. The mortar would retreat, so we can just instead do this maneuver and get in their retreat path. I love that you're already bringing in the Kettenkrad. You are using that quite highly, getting stuck right in there. No, compliments aren't useful here. We need criticisms. So far, everything I've said you can ignore, by the way. Right now, I'm just note-taking out loud. At the end of this video, I will provide one, maybe two things that are certain to up your game. So, your opponent here is making me want to play the new Settlers game, but I'm literally too poor to even buy a Ubisoft Game Pass. But I am starting to notice that you have the same trouble that 190% of co-players have, and that's paying attention to two places at once. Now, this isn't something you can ever truly fix. However, there are some ways we can help reduce the unfortunate predicaments that your soldiers might find themselves in. So one method is to end certain commands by placing units into cover, or back into safety on your side of the map. If you capture, place mines, throw grenades, or use ability actions, make the last command go into good directional cover or yellow cover. If you are fighting in 2 spaces, count a quick 5 and change places on the minimap. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks okay. Let's get back. 1, 2, 3. Being breached. I saw it. 4, 5. Just spend a little more time just to get them into a safe space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's move up. 1, 2. Looking good. 3, 4, 5. And just by counting, we're reminding ourselves to flick to the different engagements. But you first need to realize that you are in 2 fights and toggle that mindset on. And we can do that just by looking at the tactical map and referring to it a lot. That's why I encourage setting the tactical map to something easy to access and using it to traverse the map. So, if we were to put into practice the counting whilst these 2 fights go on, so we look down at this, I think this is where you're focusing, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we go to the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're getting mortar but not doing anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does this need our attention? 1, Dom. They're dead, Jim. So I hope that somewhat helps. You've got 2 things you can do, one or the other, or both. You either try to avoid fighting in multiple places, which is good, or maybe this counting method might save a few lives. And I'm like you, I tend to really enjoy watching what is happening on screen. All 3 Company of Hero games are good looking. I get suckered into just watching whilst the guts of my squatters get suckered out by a level 8 implosion. But let's move on. We're still note-taking. Now, I'm sure most people will look at builds and openings, and right now I think there's too many imbalances which will get ironed out over the next few months, so it isn't fully worth making too heavy-handed comments about it. Just so you know, though, Jaegers are cool, and going for a fast tier 2 and getting away from Grenadiers as soon as possible, I think is a solid call right now. So you push with the Werble and the Jaegers, and the poor British player has to drop their biscuits and run. But what's this? It's your busybody Kettenkrad. Bumbling around, always looking for something to do. You really are proactive with the Kettenkrad. I bet you've hotkeyed that son of a bee up, you superstar. But the Kettenkrad shouldn't be used for capturing deep territory unless we know it's absolutely safe, and that's rare. The Kettenkrad does have another 2 purposes. Firstly, it makes a great scout. Don't neglect how much vision this can provide you on a flank. Secondly, it has mines and tripwires, which at the moment you are packing enough munitions to prove Scientology wrong once and for all. Which smoothly brings me into, I think, one of your biggest areas for improvement: spending munitions. It's okay not to spend it all. Actually, it's better that way. It's good that you didn't get the Panzerschreck upgrade, since the enemy didn't field a vehicle. That's money, well, not spent. But there's a good stockpile there to drop some mines, and every mine on a capture point is a squad that will likely have to retreat or be severely impeded in the next fight they take. Pete, my friend, Pete. Can I call you that? This Panzer Pate needs to space to flip out. Get some units on your flanks. Now, the obvious move is to advance on that victory point, but oh, this is the worst possible time for a mortar to hit. Good job it's got fairly poor accuracy. But advancing on this victory point, having your units spaced out, will give you more opportunities to get around a machine gun. Oh, this is the worst day ever. Fortunately, the Panzer IV will get rid of the machine gun, but it's still going to take some time before that suppression effect wears off. So it's slowing us down a little bit. The mortar did some heavy damage as well. And I can see you have another battle going on just above us with a whirlwind and an AT gun. That's probably taking some of your cognition. This is where we're just trying to find ways to buy yourself more time to be able to react to this stuff. So You know, spreading your infantry out at the start of this would have helped. We got lots of cover that we could stick the Jaeger squads behind at the moment. Although grenades would have done more damage in cover if they were there, but I think the bullets also didn't help. So, flicking to the tactical map will help you see when you have a blob. And you already know how to space out. The Whirlwind has done fairly okay. AT gun has moved up right on the corner of the building, and the Whirlwind has fortunately won. But it does probably need to get patched up a bit. So let's just reverse it down the road really fast and get some MOT checks going. Wow, look at that munitions stockpile. So I think my notes are done, based on this replay anyway. So as the game comes to a closeout, let's finalize our notes. Now there's many things we could nitpick out, but the whole point of the video series isn't how to play the best game of Company of Heroes. Otherwise, this video would just be the same every time I release it, telling people that they should always build their buildings as far out from the base so that they can reinforce far away, and that'll just be really repetitive. That's not what this video series is about. It's about what thing that you could improve for the least amount of effort for the most amount of gain. That Kettencrat just can't stop itself from being busy, can it? So there's two ways I think you can help yourself. Now, you stomped your enemy here, but what about the next enemy? With all these munitions, you could definitely punish enemies that are stronger than you with mines. Leave yourself enough of that Panzerschreck if you want it. And granted, in this replay, you controlled a ton of munitions, so you had a higher than normal rate, but even so, what I would do is load into an AI game and just dedicate that game to mining important locations. Consider what points are important. Consider the places, choke points, or strategic value locations. Put them on munitions and fuel. Think about how much time you have to lay a mine. God, we're getting some side shots from this AT gun on the Whirlwind with the sticky. It's the worst. Got some smoke down here as well. If we pull this forward, we can use this building to block the shot. Or Pete could just be brave, be bold, and take the AT gun. Oh, no, God. Oh, God. Yeah, the sticky grenade gets it. What was I saying? Mines. Oh, yes. Whenever you place a mine, do queue up a command to put that engineer squad into cover. So, just by practicing mine placements, you can also practice moving things out of the way to try and preserve your squads. That's point one. And secondly, actually, not secondly, we should maybe move this Pioneer squad. Well, Pioneers are good scouts. We bring them there, we can see what's coming, rather than being all blobbed up and then getting obliterated by a bishop. No! We would have seen this area. Anyway, second point. Sorry, I get distracted by the beauty of Company of Heroes. Try not to have your screen in the same place for too long. This is actually going to be a very common problem for everyone, including myself. Like, we just always need to be better at it because we can literally never be good enough. Even the best player in the world. At your level, though, I would say the idling and having to apparently gather your party before venturing forth can be improved by using the tactical map, if you don't already. If you do use the tactical map, then every time it's opened, you just need to flick to a different area on the map just to check in. Like, they might not be up to anything, but then again, they might not be doing anything, so there's something to do. Flicking around to all your different units and just giving some time to them will help give you an awareness of what everyone is up to. Sometimes they'll be doing better, sometimes they'll be doing worse. And then it's really trying to balance how much attention and time that you give to every unit, as opposed to what, let's face it, me and you do. We're going to watch that grenade explode, aren't we?